we go.
What's going on, everybody? Evening Rants up in the house, episode 40. We're going to start counting them now. Episode 40. Can you believe we're already at episode 40? Tim Pool just hit 1,000.
Damn.
We're only like 960 away.
We're almost there.
Almost there. He gets slightly more views than us too, just slightly.
Oh.
Like 3 or 4. 100,000.
So,
yeah, it's
who's this gentleman joining us?
Oh, it's my friend Frank. Coach Frank. Coach Frank is awesome. So I did his podcast, and hopefully he leads off, tells you about his podcast. At the end, he'll tell you, because we have our most viewers at the very end. But actually, dude, this guy, he's a G. Not only that, he's jacked, he's in shape, he's masculine, he's just a good dude. Frank, tell us about yourself, dude.
You left out handsome, good looking, wicked beard, tall, 6-pack abs, high income earner. You left out all those strong characters.
Well, I didn't want to sound like I wanted to sleep with you. I mean, we're already like, our show is bordering that whole weird range after yesterday. So we're going to just stay completely straight, if you know what I'm saying.
I'm with you on that, brother. No, Coach Frank, host of the Superman Life podcast. 249 episodes. So we're 5 years in. We do a weekly long form interview show. I'm also the CEO and founder of Rebuilt Recovery, which is an organization that helps men overcome pornography addiction and rebuild their lives. So I say we're more life coaching, specifically on guys that are struggling with porn, as opposed to just pure addiction recovery. So we look at it from a holistic perspective. But yeah, former bodybuilder, health, fitness coach, entrepreneur at heart, and pure-blooded, red-hearted American.
Dude, we had a picture together back in like 1942. Right. I was in great shape. It was, after I escaped the Holocaust, I was shredded. Just kidding. Nobody. So anyway,
okay,
so
stop being such pussies. For fuck's sake, stop being such pussies. It's a goddamn joke.
So okay, let's bring this to like not joking. So how prevalent is porn addiction in the male population in this country?
Dude, it is what I think one of the biggest epidemics facing the male population right now. For one, it's a very taboo conversation, and it's one that most people will still push back to a certain extent. But the 2019 Barna research study was done. They interviewed, I don't know how many men they had as a part of this survey, but about 70% of men admit to regularly consuming some type of pornography. So if you had 100 men, 70% of them say we view it on a regular basis. About half of those men that admitted to watching it admit to having some issues in terms of the compulsive behavior in and around it. So if you had 100 men, 70% of them would say that they struggle or consume it. Of those, about half of them say they struggle with the addiction. So about 35 to 40% of men, based on those numbers, would have what could maybe be classified as a porn addiction.
So like what is how, so I like boobies and stuff. Like what would be, how do you classify addiction rather than like porn viewer? Is it their distinction? Is any porn an addiction? Like, how do you decipher, I just like seeing people having sex once in a while versus, oh my God, I'm an addict?
No, that's a great question. And yeah, I think all men should love beautiful women, right? And that's what God put them here for. I had Dr. Anna Lemke, who wrote Dopamine Nation. She's Stanford's director of addiction, on my podcast about 2.5 years ago. So I posed this question to a professional. And I think that's what I've tried to do, is lean into experts and professionals to get some of these answers. And I asked her, what is your clinical definition of addiction? And she said it's the continued or repeated use of substance and or behavior despite negative consequences to self or others. So once the behavior of consuming pornography presents itself to have destructive outcomes in your life. So I'm anti-porn. I don't believe any man, I don't think there's any good that comes from looking at porn. I try to stay out of the moral conversation, where that's a lot of people in my space will point to. They'll look at it from a faith, biblical kind of moral positioning, good versus bad. I try to stay away from that. There's no good, though, in terms of your health, your physical, mental, emotional health that comes from consuming pornography. But I think the addiction comes in with, once it's taking away from other areas of your life. You can't focus at work. It's had impact on the connection and intimacy with your wife or spouse, if it's presented itself to have sexual dysfunction issues. So once there's those negative consequences, and then you can't stop, so the continued or repeated use, despite being aware of the negative consequences, I would say that tells us that it's an addiction.
Okay, so so even though I'm not a connoisseur of porn, I'm not offended by it, but I'm not like browsing porn sites. It doesn't overtake my day. I don't avoid porn, but I don't actively seek porn. I'm not offended by it. So just looking at like porn in general, what negativity comes from the excessive use of porn? And is there a way to view porn without becoming an addict? Or is the dopamine response to seeing porn so great that it's like there's no such thing as trying heroin, right? Like you're always chasing the dragon. Would you compare pornography viewing as that of as strong as heroin, where you're always kind of chasing that dragon? You're always in that trying to find that fix for the perfect porn. I mean, do you see what I'm kind of getting at here?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. And you know, there's photos and images, and I've even used some of these images in some of our social content that'll show a healthy brain, a brain on heroin, a brain on alcohol, and then a brain on pornography. And in terms of the structural damage, it is very, very similar. You mentioned it right there. What is one of the harmful side effects? It's that hijacking of the dopamine reward system. Once again, I'm not here to tell anybody you should or shouldn't look at pornography, but if we can zoom out a little bit and say, okay, what am I seeking it for? When I go to look at pornography, like I think most people think that it's somehow tied to their sexual desires, or if I have a high sex drive, I need porn if I'm not having sex with my wife. I think more and more research is pointing to that there's a complete distinction and separation between our sexual desires and our use of pornography. Most of the men that we work with have fallen the ages of 25 to 40. That's kind of our ideal demographic. It's those kind of later 20s, and then they're working through their 30s. These men grew up in a generation that is a little bit different than I think the three of us. I'm 40, so I lived a portion of my adult life pre-smartphone. You know, the internet, the bandwidth, the speed, the accessibility of internet streaming pornography is at such a different ball game than it was when the three of us were growing up, that I think most men that are struggling in that age demographic were introduced to this thing very, very young. Average age of first exposure between the ages of 8 and 11. It becomes a way for them to
8 and 11
is the average age of first exposure. And by the ages of 18, 90% of boys and 80 to 85% of females have admitted to seeing it. So what happens for most of these young kids that don't have the mental processing to know what to do when they see these things, parents haven't created a right type of environment to have this conversation. Hey, I saw porn. I saw this thing on my phone, this and that, It becomes this outlet for them to process stress, deal with anxiety, in addition to hijacking the dopamine reward system. So is it as addictive as heroin? To a certain extent, yes. What I think makes it more dangerous is you don't walk around with a heroin dealer in your pocket everywhere you go.
That's fascinating.
Is there any data on the other on any other unhealthy behaviors that the majority of people that have trouble with this are on, like obesity levels, nutritional ingestion, anything like that?
That's a great question, Alan. And in terms of data or research, I'm not aware of any. One thing that I think is very clear and evident is the connection between just being addicted or having compulsive use of your phone. A lot of the guys that we work with, and we begin to find success when we begin to put boundaries around their technology and phone use. You know, stop taking the phone to the bedroom, stop taking the phone to the bathroom. In terms of like health, gut issues, I had Dr. Stephen Gundry, who's a gut health expert.
Gundry.
Gundry's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. And he was telling me that in his nutritional clinic, like the amount of addicts that come to him is through the roof. And I asked him why. Hippocrates said it, right? All disease starts within the gut. The research does point to our ability to produce healthy neurotransmitters starts from our gut health. So we take guys through a fasting protocol, and we actually put them on an elimination diet to help reset that gut microbiome to produce healthier neurotransmitters. So I do think that there's a connection in terms of like the data and the research. I don't have that readily available, but I have a belief that it is 100% tied because we have the anecdotal evidence supporting it through our work.
So we have, I'm guessing we have an older skewing audience. So in addition to talking about what we're talking about, I'd like to know about how pornography affects marriages.
Yeah, 56% of divorces report to having one or two people in the marriage struggle with a porn use. So it is right up there with financial issues. It is right up there with infidelity. 56% of divorces will point to the compulsive use of pornography as being a major component in the infidelity. We could point to sexual dysfunction issues as well. Porn-induced erectile dysfunction, PIED, is a newer term that's making its way into the medical field. Once you begin to program and desensitize yourself that this is the pathway to ejaculation, what wires together fires together, right? So over time, or what fires together wires together. So over time, that becomes your default pathway for ejaculation. I've spoken with dozens of men that tell me they must look at pornography prior to having sex. And I've even heard from guys that said they have to have a phone out watching porn while having sex with their wife because they're so desensitized to the real life through this compulsive use. It can also point to how it changes the way you see people, you know, what it does to your brain function there and how you objectify. And it makes this disconnection, like just you feel disconnected at all times. And we're talking porn addicts, right? Not a guy that's just consuming it once every other month. A guy that is looking at it multiple times a day or multiple times a week. You get disconnected from people. It's very hard to create real connection with others.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about degrees of pornography. I consider some of the stuff I see in the fitness world on Instagram pornography.
Yeah.
I consider some of these risque photos pornography. Yeah. So is there levels of pornography that lead to more deleterious effects? For example, seeing a fitness hoe on Instagram, and I say that with all due respect, versus seeing actual penetration. Would you say that the actual repercussions of seeing those images, of being addicted to scrolling Instagram and seeing your favorite fitness girl in lace lingerie, would you say that that can be as detrimental as seeing actual penetrative porn?
As detrimental, probably not at its core baseline level, right? But I think what that's going to do is it's going to create what's known as like the edging effect. Like you can only scroll IG fitness models for an extent for enough period of time until you need to go to the other stuff. This is desensitization, right? So, and this is a good sign that the addiction is prevalent. Is does looking at models on IG lead me 30 minutes later to looking at hardcore penetration? Man, most of the research is going to point to 100% yes. So it's going to be
it's a gateway
100%
drug.
is a gateway, right? Yeah, because so the new stimuli, scroll, hit a dopamine, hit a dopamine, hit a dopamine, hit a dopamine. Over time, those hits become less and less and less, and you need that massive spike that you're going to get from porn. So it's a gateway to it, and I 100% agree. And that's what made it difficult for me, Mark, as somebody that was in the fitness industry, dated fitness models, like very high level competing, some of the most well-known competitive athletes of all time were women that I dated. Having that as a part of my world and being a part of the fitness community made some of that like okay to me. And it wasn't until I woke up and realized, holy shit, Frank, you were massively addicted to porn, that I started to see the industry for what it really was, which is a gateway.
So
go ahead, Alan.
What about the like the correlation between falling testosterone levels and the rise of porn? You know what I mean?
Like in young men?
To me, this is an interesting thing because young men are seeking out like dopamine hits from instead of trying to learn how to throw a fastball or hit a home run or learn how to tackle or learn a new judo throw or something like that. Instead of getting dopamine from physical activity, which we're fucking men, we're supposed to be physically active every fucking day. If you're a man and you're not active at least once a fucking day, you're not a man.
God bless.
I just think we're just gonna piss everybody off today. But I wonder if like their lower testosterone levels which do stem from lack of physical activity. Like if you've got a 10-year-old son and you don't have him doing sports, he's going to be a pansy likely. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just get there, you know. But and I mean pansy in the most respectful way. Uh, but,
No, you don't. You don't. You already
no,
corrected me on that. You do not. You do not.
Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, you're right. But I just wonder if there's like a direct correlation. Like we have people that can get like sexual gratification without actually trying to attract women. Because I do. Every dude wants to look good for a girl or whatever they're interested in. I'm not even gonna fucking judge about that. But like every person that has any type of self-respect wants to look good for the opposite sex. Like some of us are hindered by what we have, but the rest of us, like we try very, very, very hard, you know, like, and I just think that there's a very serious correlation between not only the rise in obesity levels and the lowering of testosterone, but also the drop in the way that people get dopamine hits when they're young and how they're taught to do it.
Yeah. Well, John Eldredge said it great in the book Wild at Heart. All men desire three things in this world: journey to go on, a battle to fight, and a beauty to rescue. And I think if we just look at the world and society and the attack on young men and masculinity, all of this, my belief, is on purpose and a clear attack on the Western man. So we have video games, right? We have video games which hijack the need to go out there and have a battle to fight, right? All of these video games that these young men are caught up in and addicted to, most times are first player point of view, like they're action games, right? It also creates community and collaboration because now the video games are kind of done in this world where you're locked in on the headphones, you're talking to people from all across the world. So the need to go to have a battle to fight is hijacked through video games. The need to have a journey to go on is hijacked oftentimes through the same video games. And then the beauty to rescue is hijacked by pornography. In the same book, Wild at Heart, John says what makes pornography so dangerous and destructive to young men is it gives them everything they sexually desire from a woman without requiring anything in return. In the past, as a man, if you were gonna get laid, if you're gonna have sex, like you needed to be a man, you needed to show up, right? You needed to be able to approach a woman in public. You needed to be able to ask her out, pay for the date, be able to provide, maybe put a roof over her for the family and the kids. That would lead you to, okay, like now she feels safe and protected. She'll sleep with you. Well, we can bypass all of that. Scroll on our phone, either get a date just on any of these dating apps, which are basically just hookup culture, or if we're just alone and isolated, we can stay stuck in our own home and kind of pull up some videos. OnlyFans takes it to the next level though, because OnlyFans now creates a back and forth kind of engagement. I say OnlyFans are like the modern day strip club, minus the need to go out in public, right? Like a strip club had a barrier of entry, had to go out, had to walk into public, had to show face. Now I could sit behind a screen without having my face shown, communicate with a girl. The most common genre on OnlyFans is what's known as the girlfriend experience. It's like this girl next door because there's that intimacy component, right? So these guys are completely hijacked from creating any real connection with a woman.
Well, go ahead, Alan.
Go ahead, Mark. No, you go.
So
I went last.
I actually had that in my notes to ask you. So you were saying before how Instagram is kind of the gateway drug to porn, to hardcore penetrative porn. Whereas I see that on Twitter all the time where girls will post like soft porn or whatever and go, oh, click my OnlyFans or go to my OnlyFans. In fact, there was a female wrestler who came when my daughter's sophomore year, who came to do a clinic at our high school. And I happened to click on her link tree. She had an OnlyFans, and I guarantee you it's not to show wrestling moves unless she's naked. So I think that Twitter and Instagram, they use that gateway drug theory, what marijuana was proposed to be, which I still can argue it kind of is, because you're kind of experiment. You're doing an illegal drug like that. Oh, well, if I felt this from this, let me try cocaine. I know some people are going to argue with that, but that's what I see. I see that women are getting very, very creative and smart and intelligent at being able to use that gateway drug. Hey, I'm going to give you a little peek right now. Click here for the full experience. Pay me my $4.99 and I don't have to work. And the men are getting the experience. And that also gives me, you talked about video games and the POV. So as I mentioned the other day, I did go on Pornhub because I wanted to see what the hell was going on there. And I was actually talking about how it's all stepbrother, stepsister porn. But the other big category I noticed, Alan, was POV porn. And that's where like it's a dude holding the camera and you're like pretending you're that dude. That's kind of sad, but that makes complete sense to what you brought up. Everybody's gonna be like, shut up, Mark. You subscribe to Pornhub.
Wait till they add virtual reality and simulation to that.
It's done.
Oh, 100%.
The world ends.
AI as well. AI is going to, I mean, they're already talking about Google or one of these, or maybe it's Apple creating AI girlfriends, right? It's like, yeah, this is leading to not a good place. The OnlyFans conversation is one that I think is important to address, both from the men, but also from the female perspective, because I think it's leading a lot of these young girls down a path that they are going to regret in the next 5 to 10 years. You know, I get an opportunity to speak pretty regularly for some anti-human trafficking organizations. We do a lot of events and trainings around internet safety and technology for kids. And one thing I always point to is the rise in the OnlyFans, what we would maybe call it an epidemic now. I think there's 1.5 or 1.6 million content creators right now on the service. Here's the shocking number though, right? Because we hear about all these, Instagram celebrities or even major media celebrities that make millions and millions and millions of dollars every single month. The top 1% earners, top 1% make 33% of the income. The average income, the average revenue for an OnlyFans content creator is $187 a month. So these girls buy into this belief in this lie that this is going to be the pathway to financial freedom. They sell their soul, they sell their body, then they get caught up in it, then they make pennies for what they're doing, but now they're already naked online and they've already fallen down in that trap. Okay, what the next step is going to be is them to actually get into real porn, because now they're 1 foot in the industry. And any smart agent would be like, you're not making great money over here. Let us support you, let us promote you, and let's get you some real work and start making some real money. Before you know it, this girl that thought she was going to be maybe a model now is basically a porn star. That is
you're a whore. You're a sex worker. It is what it is. They get mad, but if you're making money through sex, you're a sex worker. And there's one thing I noticed. I see that cross on your neck. I assume you're a man of faith.
Yes, sir. Amen.
How is it now? First of all, the fitness industry, I understand, because I'm here, Mr. Married with 3 kids. The fitness industry has gotten a lot better. Derek Lunsford is deeply devout Christian. He's our Mr. Olympia for those who don't follow. So he's like our guy. He's our new Ronnie Coleman, except he's like this tall. So he's a mini lighter Ronnie Coleman, right? So we do have a lot of people of faith. Kareth has faith. All these guys have faith. The fitness industry, when I first started, which is probably when you were in it, was just debauchery and sex. And there were sex parties after the Olympia. There were swingers like Craig Titus and Kelly Ryan. When they actually murdered, you can look up the story, look up Craig Titus and Kelly Ryan. For those who don't know, just Google it. I'm not going to pull it up on the screen. They actually were in these swinger things. And I had friends who were invited and might've participated in their little swinger things. And they ended up killing a girl and burning her in her car in Vegas. And they're still in prison over it. Yeah. And so I always had this, and I've told stories about walking in on sex parties in the industry. Because, you have an industry that's full, that you're basically displaying your body. You're an industry of low self-esteem and dysmorphia are the 2 drivers of the fitness industry. And so you combine that with hypersexualized, hormone in just enriched human beings. And it's just going to be a straight orgy. And so my question, going back to fitness, and we get back to what you do. How is that one of the reasons that you're like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be in this industry?
Wow.
Oh, we get deep on here. This is Alan. I don't think we've ever done this. This is an actual interview. We're showing some journalism skills.
Yeah. Not really. No. My journey, and whatever I would call maybe a career in the fitness industry was not one to really write home about. Right. I was a mediocre amateur heavyweight competitor turned classic physique in 2016. The thing that made it difficult, I maybe make this as an excuse, right? Because there's definitely been 6'3" professional bodybuilders out there. I think just I was kind of not given the best tools right out of the gate. I'm 6'3", you know,
And you're
I'm
white.
long, I'm tall,
You're white.
and I'm white. You know, I'm 6'3" white guy, right? With wide hips and a waist, right?
Let's just say the fucking truth here. You're a 6'3" white guy. You're not Quincy Taylor.
Yeah. You know, but not to, you know, we haven't gone too deep into my story, man. But you know, I came to my faith in late 2018. So being a man of faith wasn't something that I've always had as a part of my life. So it came later on in my life, around 35 years old, and was the genesis moment for everything else that I'm doing today. It's like surrendering my life and trying to, you know, follow Christ was the model for me to now clean up, quit drinking, quit, you know, partying, doing other drugs. And then the last thing to remove from my life was porn, which was in early 2019. What I did do though, Mark, is, you know, I have a small fitness company, Frank Chris Fitness. We do some online coaching. We have programs and stuff like that. So that's where I still make a little bit of money in the fitness industry. And I think the work that we do with Rebuilt Recovery has fitness components to it. It's just not like, I'm not your online fitness coach where like, I don't make all of my money just coaching and training and getting people fit. It's a small component of what we do. But what I realized for me, Mark, is bodybuilding became an idol. Also, the shield that I built, you know, I had to overcome I had to go through a healing journey. Like there was some wounds from my childhood that I needed to heal and grow from, that in truth, I suppressed through bodybuilding. Like I built the shield of a body to protect myself from the world without actually healing the young kid inside. So in 2019, I stepped away from fitness 100%. Like I stopped training for 9 months. The picture of you and I was about 260 in that photo. Jacked. I'm about 245, 250. That's kind of my walk around weight right now. In 2019, I took 9 months away from the gym. I got off all hormones. I stopped training. I got down close to 200 pounds. Like I was a beanpole. And I think what that for me was, the journey there was learning to love and accept myself for who I was, not what I built. So there's an element of growing and healing that I had to go through, but it was nothing to do with like, this industry is riddled with, you know, sex and objectification. I can't be a part of it. Because if anything, I love what you opened up with seeing the men of faith now that are kind of leading the industry. I got an opportunity to actually train with Derek in 2017 when he first moved to Tampa. I saw him on Easter. He goes to the same church as I do. So I think having him at the top, and I think seeing more men of faith in all social media realms. You see it in the business world. You see it with pro athletes, guys like Weatherford. And I think that's just, for me, that's God is now like really starting to reveal himself more publicly in the world. And I think it's just those opportunities. But no, it was never about me leaving the industry because it was too objectifying. I never made all of my money. I ran a ticket industry. I ran a ticket company. Like I made, for 5.5 years, all of my income was made in the events, ticketing, and kind of sporting event space. Like fitness has always been a part of who I am, never like the main driver of my income.
Okay, that's completely, I always bring that up. The fitness industry for me, it's a little bit difficult. I mean, I'll be real. Right now, it's easy. Like my companies have kind of transcended the actual niche of the industry. Like Ambrosia's
health. Yeah,
man, I'm in Sprouts, bro. Like it's not I don't have to go to the Arnold. I don't have to go to the Olympia. If I go there, it's to support my friends on stage.
Jesus.
Oh God, I don't like those at all. And it just wasn't making money. But dude, I think you're doing a service to everybody. And obviously, you know, if this is your belief, everybody, I know Alan's an atheist. Everybody's like, why are you saying that? Alan's like, no, but if someone, look, man, I do believe that God, or if you don't believe in God, the universe, whatever it is, they put Frank in this place to help people. You know, and that's why we're here right now. We're all in our place to give back to society and help people. And we do this by having these discussions and talking about topics. And this is a topic everybody needs to know about, especially parents. Like, be aware of what's on these phones. All right. Be aware. I mean, I remember when I gave my 16-year-old now, I gave him the talk, right? Because he was playing Grand Theft Auto. I had no idea what was in that game. And there was a strip club scene and they're picking up hookers. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to explain this to him. He had no idea. And he was almost 12 years old. He had no idea how it worked. And I'm like, you know, I've done something right. Because looking at the age when they're first exposed to porn, he didn't know where the vagina was. He didn't know anything. And I'm like, should I be disappointed or should I be really happy? And I'm like, well, this is a great sign. This is a great thing. And it's okay to keep your kids innocent. You know, it's like, that's where we get into these issues. The new pop culture issue is, these drag queens at school spreading their legs.
Yeah.
I'm not upset that they're men dressed as women as much as I'm upset that we're sexualizing innocent children.
Yeah.
I don't want a woman on stage spreading her legs in front of my child, let alone a man dressed as a woman with a penis. Why are they forced? Do you think there's a concerted effort to sexualize our children?
100%, Mark. No, yeah, no. I'm before tonight, I had no clue what tonight was going to be about. This has been a lot of fun. I'm glad that we had this.
The good news is, with ADHD, we don't either. the title doesn't usually come in till minute 55. It's like shaking up a thing, and it's like so. But here's the thing: is that your background is something that I think both of us are extremely interested in. So the topics can wait; those will be there.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, this is something that can enrich us and others. Because if we want to hear about it, chances are everybody else does.
No, 100%. And absolutely. Parents need to be aware. They need to be in front of it. They need to create the space where the conversation can be had. One of the things I always talk about in my talks to parents is your child is not special. It will find them. The data tells us, right? Average age is 8 to 11. By 18, 90% of them have seen it. And for most of these children, there will come a point in their life where their eyes see something in their brain is not developed to handle. Because that's the thing that we have to understand is the prefrontal cortex of our brain isn't developed till 23, maybe 25 years old. So through these teenage years, they don't have that mental processing and bandwidth to understand from a rational perspective what it is that I'm seeing. So creating the space from the parent perspective to have that conversation. But in terms of, is this on purpose? I touched on a little bit, I think, when I was talking about the John Eldridge quote. This is something that I've become more and more passionate about understanding, addressing. We have some pretty exciting things coming up in the future in terms of books and content on the attack of young men through pornography. But Mark, this was laid out in a book in the late 40s called The Naked Communists. There was 50 bullet points that were outlined how the communists were going to take over America from the inside out, right? We will conquer America without a bullet being fired or something like that was what they said in the West.
I was talking about that yesterday.
No shit.
On the podcast. Yesterday on the podcast, I was talking about how they have, for the last 40 or 50 years, between Hollywood, the media, and the government, they have crafted our culture. I posted something today where the problem with America is our culture. Our culture is rotten. The video of it was a bunch of people jumping up on a squad car and fucking twerking on a police car and shit like that. They're doing something. The problem with America is our culture.
It's demoralized.
It's totally demoralized, and it's on purpose. If you think about movies, right? Movies tell us they normalize shit for us. So the very second you start seeing effeminate men in movies, they almost make it seem like these are the men you want, the Edward Cullen of the fucking Twilight movies and shit like that. He looks so amazing because he's, one, on movies, two, it's he's a fucking waif of a dude, he's a tiny little guy. He's the same guy that was I'm not going to work out to be Batman. Bitch, I'm not watching a movie then, because superheroes are supposed to be superheroes. We have changed it where even the comic books for young men have very effeminized the stars to a certain degree, not stars, but characters to a certain degree. So even in the comic books where you want to instead of wanting to look like Superman and be big and strong, Superman can also be, from a different dimension because they do this whole multiverse thing.
Yeah.
So I think that Hollywood, who is oftentimes in bed with the federal government. There's many instances of CIA operatives, right? So they're trying to craft our culture, and they're doing a great fucking job of it. They really are. Think about, we talk about this all the time, the unison, the lockstep. The talking points come out, say Trump says something fucking stupid, which is every goddamn day.
Yeah.
But
pretty much.
Stupid. But they immediately come into lockstep, with the exact same shit, the exact same way to try to fucking damage him. And they try to convince people, and they state shit as fact, right? that's what all the movie stars do. Like Barbara Streisand is like huge in anti-Trump. Do you think she's paying attention to this shit? Like, she's like, what, a fucking gajillion years old? Like, it's this weird fucking shit, like, and I just think that they're purposefully weakening us. They're making it seem like it's okay to be fat. They're making it seem like it's okay to be a porn star. And it's not that it's not okay to be a porn star if that's what you want to do. I really think it's worse for the fucking dudes. Like Mark was, I don't know if he was going to, I used to run strip clubs before smartphones. I ran strip clubs, right? Before I became a healthcare executive. I've had a weird life. But,
yeah, it is weird.
But like the dudes that would come in there every day and just drop fucking hundreds of dollars on a girl, not to even see her tits. Like literally just to fucking sit there and have her talk to him while they shared champagne and he would pay her for her fucking time. Like those are the dudes where I'm like, I just feel bad for that motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Like something's fucked up in that dude's life. And he's there every day, every fucking day. And I just think that morphed over where, okay, if we have it where it can be virtual now, one, it's safer. Two, there's no overhead. Three, instead of having 15 dancers on a night, you've got thousands and thousands and thousands.
It's scalable.
Yeah, it's scalable. Right. That's what these do. These things make a lot of shit scalable. Like Mark and I couldn't run our businesses right now without them. Like, I mean, there's no fucking way.
Same. And that's a challenge and struggle that I have, right? Because part of what I do is trying to help these guys understand how social media and some of these apps and texts and devices are weapons against them, but I have to use this to run my business. Right. So it's like I got to be in it, and then I got to make sure that I kind of like manage that relationship. The Hollywood conversation, Alan, is the important one, right? Who was it? Cat Williams on the Shannon Sharp podcast.
I was going to bring that up.
You talked about the rite of passage that Hollywood male actors go through with having to put a dress on.
Black men in dresses. Black men in dresses.
Also, we just saw with John Cena as well, right? Yeah, it's not just black men.
But the thing is, it just seems like it's usually black men. It seems like they're trying to, and that goes along with the 20% of inner city black households have a father in the household. Mm-hmm. It just seems like they're trying to destroy the black man. And I don't want to be that guy but look, dude, if you objectively look in, you will see that there has been a concerted effort to destroy the black man throughout history, from the Tuskegee experiments, giving them all syphilis, to what we're seeing now. Can you explain why in black culture, let's assume that there's no external influence, why we went from 77% dual parent households in the inner city in black families to 20% when the 60s were much more racist? The civil rights movement hadn't even finished. They were still getting sprayed with high-powered hoses. And for some reason, the black family has been dismantled. That BLM had in their original statement on their website, the number 2 goal of BLM was to dismantle the nuclear family. It's an attack on the black male. And it's been going on forever. But if you look at what's happening to white men, look at these soy boys running around. Like, it's been very successful. And I guarantee you, the FBI is watching this show right now.
Oh, yeah.
We're on a list. If you're a strong male who speaks your opinion and doesn't go lockstep with the narrative, I got put on that list and shadow banned from YouTube during COVID because I didn't even speak up. I just questioned it. So
yeah, I wore a "Make America Great Again" hat on a Instagram post, and the next day, all my stuff begins shadow banned, and all my reaches is halted. Yeah. This is demoralization, destabilization, right? It's the 4 stages of communist takeover. Demoralization, destabilization, crisis, normalization. That's how they work their ways into power. Getting back to the naked communists. So this book that was written in the 50s, they outlined 50 bullet points on how they're going to take over the West. 2 of the top 20 bullet points centered around pornography and nudity. One of them was to make nudity readily acceptable and just commonplace, right? Like, the norm is just nakedness and nudity. If you walk into any gym these days, it's basically bikinis and G-strings. That's what people are. And now it's made its way into just modern, like, public culture, like what
Yeah.
people used to just wear to the gym. Now you're standing in the produce section, you look over and it's like you're going to see her cottage cheese in addition to the cottage cheese that's on the counter, right? So it's just like
Nice.
it's just nudity is just so readily
Nice.
acceptable. So that was the first one. And then to make pornography acceptable and accessible as well. So right there was the blueprint that was laid out, and it's just making its way into our culture and into our society. So yes, to answer your question, I do think it's a weapon.
I can see how it destroys marriages, because like as you get older, you know, you're going to age, right? And your wife, what used to be up here might be down here. It's just father time is undefeated. And after kids, things change. So if you're watching these, you know, unless you're watching like granny porn, you know, if you're watching this pornography, you have an unrealistic expectation of not only what a woman's supposed to look like, but half the shit they do in porn. I don't think I've met any women who will actually do that IRL. You know what I mean? Yeah. In real life. So you're like, why can't we do a money shot? Well, you don't factor in the cleanup. Nobody talks about the cleanup, Frank. The cleanup is a mess. And everybody knows that once your stuff hits water, it turns into rubber cement. Like, remember, what was that? Something about Mary? He's trying to get it off his hand. It goes into her hair, whatever. So it's just, I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. No, just everybody needs to know dude wipes are multi-purposeful. So
yes, dude wipes are the cure, and shower sex is not clean. So it's rubber cement, bro. It's rubber cement. So what I'm saying is, like, it gives you unrealistic expectations, not only on how a female is supposed to look, but also how they're supposed to perform. It's like if I go to the batting cage to hit a baseball right now, my kids don't really watch professional baseball. They're like, well, dad's a stud. And then Alex Rodriguez goes in the cage next to me, and it's like, oh, he's a professional. Yeah. So you're watching professional sex performers. And then you go home to Karen or Becky or whoever your wife's name is. Yeah. Next thing you know, you're like, God, this is terrible. It's terrible. So there's a lot of negatives to porn, and I can see how it destroys relationships.
Well, you said it there. Go ahead.
But it also fucks with women too, so bad, because like,
I'm not really that big.
My wife, no shit, me either. But my wife and I were talking about. My wife and I were talking about like Mark just had us new logos made for Evening Rants, right? And like the one has like we look like we're kind of cartoonized slightly, you know. That's awesome. I was like, look how awesome this is. She was like, you guys look like you're on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was like, because my wife's a fucking genius like that. But like the filters, the filters and shit on Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. Yeah. Like right now, like. Here's something that I think people don't get. Give me 1 second. I want to show people something.
Yeah,
this is good because I have a really interesting theory around this topic. So, Alan, once you're done, I'm gonna drop this on you guys because it's
watch me now. Did you guys see me change?
Wait, do it again. Did you put a filter on?
Yes. So just slightly, like watch the big black circles under my eyes. And watch them disappear. You know, or fade.
Oh wow!
So this is even built into StreamYard, where we can touch up appearance, right?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. If you're making your money off your body, I'm not saying that I don't like fucking change the contrast and everything like that. When I take pictures, I'm fucking 53 years old almost. I got a damn need to. But if like the normal, like a woman, she's in her 20s, she wakes up. She's already got Botox, lip fillers, fillers in her cheeks, all sorts of fucking crazy shit. Dyed hair, 5 pounds of fucking toxic ass makeup on her fucking face, and then needs a filter still on fucking social media. This is not good for intimacy either. Like, I mean, the expectation goes the other way, and they learned this from how other women present themselves. So the average woman thinking she needs to have a filter on and everything like that comes from this. Same with men. Although men, like, it's weird because men using filters right now, I'm like, God, are you a fucking woman? You know, but like, I mean, it's one thing to fucking touch up your picture, but if you need to present yourself, you're way too into, like, you're worried about your appearance, if you ask me, and you're not worried about the character of yourself. How is that going to affect people too? Because again, especially with AI coming out, like these AI filters are insane.
Nuts.
Insane.
Yeah. So you guys have heard the term supernormal stimuli. At least you've heard the phrase. So it's,
can you explain that for everybody, including me?
Supernormal stimulus. So it's a term in neuroscience that like the stimuli that you get from certain things are beyond like normal. So they're super normal. So the dopamine hit that you get from cocaine or hardcore drugs, the dopamine hit that you get from pornography is a super normal stimuli. This term was coined though, I believe it was in the late 70s, early 80s from a researcher in Stanford. And they were studying butterfly mating patterns. So they developed a butterfly ecosystem at their lab in Stanford. And it was built perfectly for exactly what butterflies needed. And they threw a bunch of real living butterflies into there. And they were studying mating patterns. Over the course of this study, they started to, what they knew is the attractiveness of male butterflies to females is dictated by two factors: the vibrancy of the colors within their wings and the size of their eyes. So the butterflies with the biggest, brightest eyes and the most bright colors on their wings were the most attractive females to the males. So what the researchers did is they started to inject in this ecosystem fake butterflies with bigger eyes, more vibrant colors. And over the course of the study, what ended up happening is all the male butterflies started to get attracted to the fake butterflies and stopped mating with the real alive butterflies. So where this leads us to, and I think why we've seen such a rise in this in a very short window of time, is by men over-consuming pornography, these filters, filterizing the woman's face, body, and everything, as men are becoming more and more and more attracted to what's fake lips, fake eyelashes, fake cheeks, fake butts, fake breasts, all of this. And the women have to play the game that men are setting up for them to play. So then they fall into the trap of, well, if that's what they like, then I need to take that to the furthest it will possibly go. I mean, some of the women that you see online today, they damn look like cartoon characters. Like to see a naturally attractive, beautiful woman is like, it's like seeing a unicorn out in public these days. It's very rare. And I can tell you from somebody that consumed a lot of pornography and now has lived a life free of it for 5 years, what I am attracted to has changed back to natural beauty versus what it was 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, it's dangerous and destructive. And that's kind of my theory on why I think that this is so prevalent in our society today.
And the Instagram is having that effect on people because it's unrealistic. And those are causing, they're going to have to write a new DSM, which is the book on psychological disorders.
Yeah.
Just what social media has done. And I'm someone who goes on social media. It's funny. I forgot the name of the guy, Devin Physique. You guys remember him? You remember him, right? So this motherfucker.
He's the one who
tore his pec.
He tore his pec, and you said you can't Photoshop strength, bitch.
Yeah. I've had my moments, and I appreciate you watching that.
I remember that so much. Oh my God.
So anyway, I remember I'm at the Olympia, and I have a modest line. A modest line. And I look, and there's a fucking line. This rivaled Rich Piana's line, who, by the way, also got caught photoshopping. Talk about mental disorders. No one says it. Rich Piana was fucked up. Dude used fake weights. Fake weights. He had silicone implants in his fucking arms. He wouldn't let people film this part of his arm because you can only film this part because you could see through the tattoos the fucking lumps and shit from where the silicone went fucked up.
Crazy. I saw Rich the day that he passed away. Like he was at the Powerhouse Gym in Tampa, Florida. He's in the background of a chest training video that I shot that morning, and it's on my YouTube channel. It was a chest video on how to use resistance bands, and he's laying on something was off with him that morning, just the way that he was moving around the gym.
He was a drug addict,
laying on the floor. Yeah. But
bro, I mean, this is not meant with disrespect. These are all things that have come out since he's died. We all knew it. Yeah. We all knew it back in the day. Rich and I hated each other. And we ended up gaining respect for each other towards the end of his life because we toured Australia together in 2015. So we actually gained a little respect. But Rich trained like a pussy. He did. He trained like a pussy. When he did train hard to use fake weights, and he was surgically enhanced. And that's what people don't seem to understand is that That's not disrespectful. That's literally who he was. But when someone dies, people who love them tend to immortalize them in how they saw them, which is all the positives. But there were a lot of negatives. I think people need to realize that he, as well, more than anyone, was overtaken by that quest for the perfect body, to be Instagram famous. And for him, it worked, but really did it because he ended up dying because of his steroid addiction, because of his painkiller addiction. Like, he was addicted to painkillers and steroids and recreational drugs. It was to the point where I called him out on it. After he died, his ex-wife fucking just called me and started screaming obscenities at me. I mean, I did that before he died, though. But she's like, Rich always fucking hated you. I'm like, so tell him to fucking haunt me. What do you want from me? Like, I didn't kill him. He killed himself. He literally killed himself through his addictions. But on to the next. Let's get back to Mr. Physique. So I look. There's a line. I'm like, who the fuck is that for? And so I'm like, I'm like, hey, can you guys just wait here a second? I want to see something. So my dozens and dozens of Mark Lowbliner's fans stood there waiting. And I walked over and I looked, and this 150-pound soaking wet motherfucker is standing there. He's got a tank top on. His arms are fucking this big. And I'm like, who the fuck is that? And then I think Congo, who's still an athlete with us, Colin Congo, he's a natural pro. I think he was Mr. Natural Olympia physique a couple years ago. Colin he just got married, by the way. Colin goes, Steven Physique, bro. And I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. This guy looks 240 in his pictures. He looks fucking jacked. And I'm like, I fucking hate this place. So when people see me in person, what I usually get is, oh, you're bigger than I thought you'd be, because I don't use the filters. I don't use the Photoshop. My pictures, and I get shit on. It's like, I'll take a picture of my kid, just like random. I'm not posing. There's no angle. I'm fucking, and people be like, oh, you got small, whatever. I'm like, I wasn't aware this was a picture where I'm being judged on my physique. I'm literally taking a picture because my son's team won the football championship. I'm the coach. I'm really proud of him. So what if I don't look good in this picture? But it's gotten to the point where everybody, when you see on Instagram, it's the perfect picture, the perfect edits, the perfect setting. Sometimes Photoshop. You don't need Photoshop anymore. You could download these apps that you press one button, it makes your arms bigger. It makes your fucking cuts better. The only thing I'll do to my pictures is adjust lighting because I'm white as fuck. That's it. Yeah, it's crazy though. I mean, and everybody, like, I blame, and a lot of this I blame on what the fake weight motherfuckers, the Brad Castleberries, the Cali Muscles, the Rich Pianos, what those guys do and the fakeness that they present are leading to so much. When you go to my Instagram now, I benched 150 for 10 solid reps. Those were real weights. Dumbbell. Okay. Yeah. Dumb. I mean, but that's reality. And that's something that a lot of people can achieve if they train for 30 plus years and go really hard. Well, you're on drugs. Dude, my test levels are at 1,000. Your test levels, if you're in your 20s, are probably at 1,000. We're right in the same plane, guys. It just takes work, and nobody wants work anymore. They want that immediate gratification. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take steroids. I'm going to fucking do these great pictures. I'm going to get these crazy edits, and I'm going to be fucking Sam Select tomorrow. And there's another thing. I talked about this with a man. His name is Paul Callahan. He owns Bullfrog Nutrition in Toledo, Ohio. He just had blood clots, terrible heart problem, almost died for the second time. And we were talking about the steroid addiction and how it's causing all these problems. You got the Trend Twins and you got fucking Sam Select. And these guys are famous. They're rich. Those are like the OnlyFans. Those are the earners. Okay, the rest of these guys juicing their gills out, they have 12 followers. So they look at the outliers. So all these kids are like, I want to get rich and famous like Sam Select. Nobody's questioning whether he's on drugs. I know he doesn't talk about them, but it's there. Like, you don't do that in 2 years without drugs. So we have this society where we're glamorizing the short term. We're glamorizing the quick fix. And for those who work, it works. But at what expense? I guarantee you, and I hope I'm wrong, it will be a miracle if those guys lived to my age.
Well, shit, dude. We were talking about Piana, right? Like, about a month before he died, like I made a few videos on him, and about like a month before he died, I was like, I showed a picture of him and a picture of him from a year before, and I was like, somebody should like check on him because he's going to die soon. And man, the 5%ers, they were fucking pissed at me. He's better than you at this. He's better than you at that. And then he
Yes.
fucking died a month later, right?
Well,
And I was
yeah.
like, and I was like, this is like, maybe you guys should pay attention. Like, this is not a long term thing. You guys are emulating some dude that just literally fucking like screw fucked himself to death. And he's like, he's way better than you. And like a year later, somebody said to me, like, he's still way better than you. I'm like, not at living for the last fucking year.
Oh, dude.
Like,
Yeah, Alan, on that note, here's a story. So I was doing, I think it was some kind of live event or something. And I thought I was going to get killed because they're like, well, you say to do this. And it was health related. Okay. You say to do this, but Rich Piana said to do this. And I'm like, Rich Piana's dead. I think my argument stands. And they're like, and then it's like, can you believe he was only 44? He was only 44 years old. He lost his life at 44. That's a tragedy. Instead of see, here's the thing. We should celebrate what he did great. Rich Piana is the hardest worker I've ever seen at a trade show. Rich Piana had the work ethic of 12 mules. That motherfucker he didn't even pee. He stood there. We were at the Arnold, Australia. He stood there from fucking open to closing till after closing until he talked to everybody who wanted to talk to him. For that, you need to give him respect. He created a persona. But we also cannot shy away from learning from his mistakes, talking about what he did negatively and avoiding them for us and everybody else. So when I say things about Rich, oh, you're just a hater. No, I'm not. I actually respected Rich Piana and I still respect him, but we need to, when I die, I want people to say, hey, Mark did a lot of things right, but here's where he fucked up and he really fucked up here. So don't do that. And that's what I tell my athletes. I'm like, look, I'm here to prevent you from making the mistakes that I made. When Bryce and I are talking to schools, we're like, hey, Bryce has a fake knee. Dude literally has like this RoboCop knee that doesn't work. One leg's like this much shorter than the other. Like his knee is screwed up. And I've had a couple surgeries where like, we don't want you to make the mistakes we made that'll cause you to have these injuries. So it's all about perspective and learning from one's mistakes. So if we only look at the good side of Rich Piana, that's not good. You need to look at the good and the bad and take the good and leave the bad.
Yeah, Mark. And I think, this conversation with the social media and the want and the need to kind of like have it all now, like, I think this transcends just the fitness or social media sphere. I think that this is a byproduct of what many would call the participation trophy generation, right? It's like if you were as a kid told that every time you do something, you are a winner, then when you start working out, your immediate thing is going to be like, well, I'm doing this thing that everybody else is doing. I should have what they are having. It's like, no, you have to work to win things. You have to compete. Like it is a meritocracy. Like you have to be the best at certain things to be recognized as the top performer in those areas. I think all these young kids that are caught up in this culture and society now, it's like they grew up being, it's okay, Tommy, like you didn't win the game, but here's a trophy just for participating. Well, now that you're in the gym, you're participating in the activities that everybody else is doing. You should have the trophies that they're already having. Like when the three of us were coming up in the fitness industry, it's like we put in years and years and years and years before we even thought about stepping foot on a stage. Now a kid joins a gym membership, EOS, 6 months later, he's trying to step on stage. It's like, dude, you haven't done any of the work to lead you here. So it's a bigger societal issue, I think.